Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. Welcome back, everyone. I'm a licensed cognitive behavior therapist and a licensed mental health counselor. My name is Huda London. I'd like to wish all my subscribers a happy weekend, a lovely weekend. I'd love to wish everyone a blessed weekend. And today I'd like to talk a bit about the horrific quadruple murders that happened in Idaho, Moscow. This took place on the 13th of November 2022, sorry about that. And law enforcement was called around 11:58 in the in the afternoon from one of the surviving roommates is device phone's headset, and the person said that they needed emergency medical emergency because somebody is unconscious in the house. Law enforcement came there, and unfortunately they found out that four people were horrifically slain. There was a quadruple murder that happened on that address, and the address was on Kings Road. This was off the university campus of Idaho, Moscow, and this happened on the 13th of November, going on the 14th of November. What was really sad and disturbing about this is that it happened late at night around 4 a.m., like the affidavit says. We have strange things going around those timings. Xana Conodil was one of the roommates. She ordered a doorbell. She ordered basically a delivery on an app. So she was waiting for uh, the delivery, basically Jack in the Box, I think it was, that she ordered, and that came to her around 4 a.m. at night. That was quite late. We know that all the four students were out that night. Eaton and Xana went to the Sigma Chi fraternity, and Kaylee and Maddie went to the corner club. You remember that clip when they're walking back and we hear Kaylee for the last time speaking, saying, Maddie, what did you say to Adam? And Maddie says, I told Adam everything. So that was the last time they they walked down to the food truck, and after the food truck, a Uber private ride came, drove the two girls home. Law enforcement spoke to them. He confirmed that he drove them home. He said the girls were all right on the right way back to home. And when they went home, we are aware that both the girls made several calls to Jack D, who's a very close friend. He's Maddie's, he's Kaylee Congalvis, his ex-boyfriend. They share a dog legally together, and uh, he's friends with Maddie too. So Kaylee called Jack around 7 times, and Maddie calls Jack around 3 times. We obviously thought it was connected to the murder. I used to think maybe they saw the murder outside, but then it seems like the timeline law enforcement are saying now is it was at 4 a.m. that this happened. But for me, it's strange because I would bet my life on that something was going on when law enforcement stopped the underage boys who were drinking in the park. We saw too many movements. We could see the lights flashing, whether it was from the headlights of a car or whether it was the girls' bedroom lights flicking on and off. We did see movements there. Then, if you remember, Ashley Banfield showed us the clip of the four boys' shadow passing quickly by, and they looked like they were like hiding themselves, being discreet, and that happened around 3 to 3:30. I think it was 12 past 3. And then you had that police stop where they were talking to that guy, and the guy with the beer can, he was looking at some pictures that looked to me like he was communicating with someone. So I don't know if this could just all be a pure coincidence, but a lot was happening around those times, up around those hills and areas. So I really wonder if somebody else could have been working with Brian. I'm not saying that there was necessarily somebody who was working with him, but I'm just wondering, in a matter of 16 minutes, he managed to horrifically murder 4 people. But then at times, trigger warning, I would say, I wouldn't be surprised if he knows the right veins and organs to target people, to give them fatal wounds. Then I'm not surprised that it did take so long time for him. So that makes me start wondering, has Brian Kohberger, has he ever done a crime like this before? Since he did it in such a short record time, I would really wonder if he has killed, whether it's humans or animals, if he has been in a killing spree before. And I really would love to know. I know I've heard many of the lawyers talking and saying that it's not important to have a motive, but I'd love to know a motive. As a mental health counselor, I would really love to know what made him in his thought process go that far that he thought it was alright to kill. And how long was he planning this? Like law enforcement said, he must have been planning this for a long time, because 12 times his phone pinged to the girls. Starting to wonder, was he going to the Mad Creek restaurant? Is that where he got to see Xana Conodal and Maddie from Madeline Morgan? Because they both were working in the Mad Creek restaurant, and that's a vegan restaurant. So I don't think he had much choices of vegan places around these areas. So he must have definitely come here. So I know that he had 3 of the girls in his DMs. He had no, I mean, he had 3 of the girls in his follower list. But the question is, I'm really wondering, did Brian actually come to a party in Kings Road? Because you can see, when you see the pictures that Kaylee has taken and all of them, when there's parties going on in Kings Road. Sorry guys, you don't usually see, if you'll have noticed, you don't usually see the girls who live in the house focusing much to the guests. They're taking their own pictures and their own selfies. So I'm starting to wonder, was everybody who was coming into these parties accounted for? Was everyone's names written for? Or was just people just coming with other people, if you'll understand what I mean? Because I really believe personally that Brian Kohberger must have come into this house. I just don't believe that he was just a creeper stalking from outside and just looking inside the house. Yes, he was definitely doing that for a long time, but I really believe that either he was getting inside information, I'm being honest, from whoever was living inside the house, whether it was one of the dead victims, may God bless their soul, or whether it was one of the surviving victims. Somebody must have let this man into this house, either knowingly or unknowingly, willingly or unwillingly. I really believe that crime Brian Chris Brian Christopher Kohberger has been in that property. Because when you think about it, even how the property is made inside, the layer of the steps and everything is really very unique. So if you don't know that property, you could trip down the steps easily. And it is dark in the property. So you can imagine. That means I personally believe, I've always believed he knows the property. He could have even maybe have said to one of the victims, they're no longer with us, so they can't even tell us what happened. But I wouldn't be surprised if he offered to carry shopping with one of them home, or if he tried to fix a sink for them or the toilet for them or something like that. I really do believe that Brian Kohberger was not only a person that was a stalker, but a person that they knew. The question is, how much did they know him? Because I believe that something really triggered him up. I believe that he had all these things built up in his mind, and he thought that he's going to get married or have a family or be in a relationship with one of the girls. He really had a hope and future there, I believe. And then when when reality hit, and when they must have told him, no, we just consider you as a friend, he must have taken that really personally. Because it looks like, unfortunately, this guy has, maybe he doesn't know the right way to approach girls and talk to them. So he must have been coming from the wrong side, wrong way of talking to people, like we've heard from friends and from people. So it looks like he had nothing to lose. And another thing that I wonder, that I think is really important, is could it be possible that when Brian applied for the job with the law and enforcement in Washington, I mean, like, is it called Washington University, yeah, near Washington, Idaho, when he applied for that job, coincidentally, it was Chief Fry who was supposed to meet him. And we don't know yet if Brian got chosen for the job, but he was one of the four candidates in the job. So imagine if I just wonder if he started working with law and enforcement, would that have changed anything? Would that have made him a better person? Would that have maybe built up his self confidence? And another thing that I'm wondering is, was that what shattered his dreams and triggered up all these murder thoughts and dark thoughts into his head? Is that when he started, maybe maybe law enforcement did not give him the job, and there's nothing wrong in that. If you're the candidate, then you deserve it. If you're not, then there's always another time. So people don't fall that hard. We do get upset about things we don't get that we want in life, but that doesn't keep us that far behind. But this, I think, for Brian Kohberger, he was going into a tough period of his life that he thought, that's it. Law enforcement hasn't given me the job I wanted, and one of these girls that he liked, or maybe more of them, weren't giving him attention, and that must have triggered up maybe PTSD, and he started thinking about all the times he was bullied, and everything started triggering for him. And then he must have thought, like we heard, he slipped thrice, I believe, or a couple of times, hello, how you doing message to one of the girls he slipped it into a DM, and we don't know which victim it was. And he doesn't even know if she saw it or not. But that just shows that he has a low self confidence. That shows that he has serious issues. For him to take it to a stage to go lash out and slain four innocent young victims that had nothing to do with him. And what is so sad is that Xana'S, his sister, was from the same university as Brian Kohberger, so that is extremely hurtful. And I know that people have asked, do you believe he knew it? And I've even discussed with people, and I believe he knew it as Xana's sister, because Xana and her sister look identical. They look a lot alike. And this guy is Mr. Research. He loves doing research. He was wanting to do research with convicts and criminals. So why wouldn't he be doing research before he did the crime? He's phone pinged 12 times. So I'm sure he knew exactly who Xana'S sister was, who Kaylee's family was. He must have been stalking these people for a while. And it is really so sad. I wish it was so predictable to see such things, such horrific people when they're about to strike. But then what is sad is that I don't know how come, I don't know how he was behaving in his PhD classes, and as a teacher, we've heard from the students that he started giving out 100% grades. 100% high grades, can you believe that? After this guy saw that he finished having a thrill kill, killing 4 people, he decided to just give out the highest grades. And before, the students said he used to leave them a long note on he used to stick a long note on their work, and he used to say, I need to build up your skills in this and that, and he was very stingy and very strict with grades. But now he started giving the highest grades because he thought he was going to get away actually with this murder. This guy thought that he will get away with this murder, and we saw how comfortable he was. The question is, does his father know what he did? Because I'm starting to wonder if his father definitely knew. This is his father. He would know his son's moves and how his son is behaving. And I'm sure this family looks like the 2 sisters, the mother and the father look like, and Brian look like they're close. They're supporting Brian, and you could see him saying, I love you, and kissing, blowing fly kisses to the family. So this is really sad. You could see the father was making a long conversation with law enforcement, and Brian was just giving that father the look to keep quiet, not to do that. So it's just sad because the murder weapon, I don't believe it will be ever found soon. He must have buried it right after he left the house, and when he made that long route and all. He must have come back for the knife sheet and come back to check if law enforcement were there, and when he saw there was no law enforcement, he must have hesitated with the knife sheet. And it's just sad, it's just sad. But that's why I'm not blaming any of the students, and I'm not blaming any students, so do not misunderstand me, guys. But I really believe that we need to have a talk with our young adults, our young children, and explain to them how difficult and how evil and how devious some people are in this world. It's important to check out what we put on social media, not put out maybe too much out there, because there are psychopaths. These days, you remember like 20 years ago, people used to just stalk you and walk home and stalk you. Nowadays, they don't need to do that, they just access you online. So, it's really sad. I hope this could have been prevented. Unfortunately, those 4 students and their families' lives will never be the same again. Guys, please pray for them. And we have the sad case about Brian Kohberger, his lawyer or attorney, Ann Taylor, who used to represent and was the attorney for Xana'S mother, who has heroin addictions. She has worked on 4 cases with her, and now that Ann Taylor got the death penalty case of maybe death penalty case of Brian Kohberger. She chose to take Brian Kohberger's case, and she resigned from Xana'S mother's case, and that isn't right. That is lack of ethical morals. So much has been going on behind the scenes, but the case of Brian Kohberger will be back in court on the 26th of June. And like I said before, I'm not sure, but I'll keep you all updated. I believe it's not going to be in the same courts in Latimer, wherever it was. This time it's going to be in Boise or in a bigger court because they want to find juries that are not biased. And that I can understand them because this case has become so international that people everywhere in the world is following it. So I can imagine getting jury that's not biased. But I really hope that law enforcement has enough evidence, and I hope they have the right guy for the family's sake, because it's not good for to traumatize the family. But I really believe law enforcement in Idaho, Moscow have done a beautiful job, and the FBI. So I really hope that Ann Taylor either takes back Xana'S mother, or either drops on both the cases, because this is not fair. This woman needs support. She's suffering through heroin addiction. I know many people will say that she brought that upon herself, but let's have some human decency and empathy, and remember that her daughter was horrifically murdered. So Ann Taylor should have some mindfulness, decency, empathy, and stay with the case that she was supposed to be taking. Apparently, Xana'S mother even said that Ann Taylor promised to take her to rehab. So, when somebody is in such a deep addiction, there's so much they say and want to do, but they can't do by themselves. But if you're attorney of someone, stick to the person. Unless it's too difficult to work with the person, continue your job. You have to have some ethical codes. I know in every branch, media has their own ethical codes, attorneys have their own ethical codes, but in mental health, and I'm sure like doctors and medical health, we have to be very careful with the ethical models because we're working with vulnerable people. We don't want to be misleading them, confusing them, or letting them down, because that could spoil the whole therapy and the treatment that they've been working through. So it is important that Miss Ann Taylor or Mrs. Ann Taylor reconsiders and maybe sees a way out, resigns from both cases, or either take Xana's mother's case since she had that case first. That is not really alright to traumatize a person second time. Anne should understand that Xana's mother is suffering enough. People are so unfair, things are so wrong at times. Many other attorneys would say, no, there's nothing wrong. But then it's just common sense. The woman just lost her daughter. Even a 5-year-old child would have understood that. And she didn't even have the courtesy and audacity to tell her that she quit. She just put her up for another lawyer. That's not right. Anyway, guys, please be good to Xana's mother. Remember that Xana's sister is still around, and she goes to the same university that Brian Kohberger went to, Washington University. So please, guys, be good, be nice, and be decent, be mindful to the family. about many people saying a lot of nasty things, and it shouldn't be that way. The woman has a drug addiction, it could happen to anyone. She needs help, and we're here to help victims no matter what. We shouldn't choose and pick like Ann Taylor's doing. Take care, guys. Bye.